Good afternoon and many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. I'm David Alabi and here are the stories making the headlines. Now we begin our bulletin with reports that ahead of the 2019 general elections, a group known as the Nigerian Consolidation Ambassadors Network has picked the presidential nomination form for President Muhammadu Buhari. The form, which cost about 45 million naira, was to enable him contest the 2019 presidential elections on the platform of the ruling All Progressives Congress.
The president has started laying a foundation for a better Nigeria. There is need to consolidate on the gains so far made. We have no doubt that Mr. President has both in action and words been working to lay a foundation for a greater and prosperous nation that our generation and future generation will be proud of. Under his administration, Nigeria has become a country sought after for investment in the world. Nigeria has assumed its leadership role, not just in Africa, but in the world.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has called on the Chinese government to facilitate the speedy completion of the Mambila Power Project in Taraba State, northeast of Nigeria. President Buhari made the appeal in Beijing, China, on Wednesday while signing a bilateral agreement with President Xi Jinping on the sideline of the 74th summit of the Forum on Africa-China Cooperation. President Buhari, during the ceremony, commended the Chinese government for its support for the development of infrastructure in Nigeria. With a reviewed bilateral cooperation between Nigeria and China, he said that the majority of citizens from both countries stand to benefit in terms of the improvement in their living conditions. He disclosed that in the last 2 years, China has supported Nigeria in the training of security personnel, agricultural modernization and provision of concessional loans, which have impacted on the country. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has signed an MOU with the China National Offshore Oil Corporation to collaborate in oilfield services and R&D, the NOCs announced on Wednesday. The companies have agreed to work together to develop the technical expertise to provide oilfield services as well as operate oilfield assets in Nigeria and other countries. As part of the deal, NNPC's R&D division laboratories in Port Harcourt are to be upgraded. Fan Zi, Vice Chairman CNOOC, says, quote, "With this new chapter opening in the history of CNOOC's cooperation with the NNPC, we hope to witness many more future collaborations that will be beneficial to both parties." End of quote. In our talking politics, the main opposition party in Nigeria, that's the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has extended the deadline for the sales and submission of presidential, governorship and National Assembly nomination forms from the 6th to 10th of September. National Publicity Secretary of the party, Kola Ologbondiyan, said that aspirants for the positions were to submit their completed forms at designated offices not later than Tuesday. Quote, "This extension, however, does not apply to aspirants for State House of Assembly position. Aspirants in this category are to submit their duly completed forms at officially designated chapter of the party on or before the close of work on Tuesday, September 6th. All members of the party, particularly aspirants for various positions, should be guided accordingly." And now to some health matters. Health safety professionals are saying no more medical errors in Nigeria. They have also campaigned for the National Health Insurance Scheme to be made available to all Nigerians for effective healthcare delivery. The report.
Reducing preventable harm through effective healthcare communication, organized by Patient Safety Movement in Lagos, Nigeria.
Patient safety is very sacrosanct as regards patients walking into the hospital and with the expectation of coming back unharmed and alive. When you walk into the hospital as a patient, you have to go through more than about 5 cycles to get treatment for just one ailment.
It is always regrettable when someone is harmed, and of course the worst kind of harm you can have is death. And so we always feel very bad.
There are system issues, there are macro and micro issues that have to be all considered. There are policy challenges.
Over 160 years ago, the founder of modern nursing, Florence Nightingale, said the very first requirement of a hospital is that it should do the sick no harm. On this premise, it would be safe to say that rendering healthcare goes beyond having access.
One of the things we're talking about here today is that patients have to know their rights, and that's why I'm happy that you have CPC here, who are the ones sponsoring patient bill of rights in Nigeria right now, which of course we're very happy about. Patients have to know what their role is within the circle of care. It's not just about the doctor, it's not just about the caregiver, it's about the patient.
Improving patient safety in Nigeria can be achieved if there is continuous sensitization of both health professionals and the patients themselves. That is how we can come about actionable outcomes that are well understood by the stakeholders, the health professionals, and the patients themselves. Ife Aron for Plus TV Africa.
Away from health to security matters now, the Nigerian Army on Thursday said it killed many Boko Haram insurgents and recovered 147 livestock in 2 separate operations in Borno State, northern Nigeria. Brigadier General Texas Chukwu, Director, Army Public Relations, said that the troops of Sector 3, Operation Lafia Dole, in conjunction with 82 Task Force Battalion on clearance operations, killed the insurgents when they tried to extort money and rustle livestock belonging to the villagers. He explained that some items recovered from them include 147 livestock and 2 AK-47 rifles. And still on security matters, Boko Haram insurgents on Wednesday hijacked a commercial bus and kidnapped the passengers on board in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, that's in northern Nigeria. It is still uncertain the exact amount of people abducted, even though reports say they are between 10 and 20 people. The rest of the news at this hour continues in just a moment. Stay tuned for more news with Plus TV Africa. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're still watching news on the hour on Plus TV Africa. Now we begin our African news package from Uganda, where the parliament, which is controlled by the ruling party, voted overwhelmingly in December to scrap an age limit of 75 for presidential candidates. The original legislation, which would have effectively ruled out 73-year-old President Museveni from standing in the next elections due in 2021. Lastidos Rolf Kafuzi, a lawyer for 6 lawmakers opposed to the amendment, said that the group had filed an appeal against the ruling on Tuesday. Meanwhile, opponents of Uganda's president, including lawmakers and individual opposition activists, have mounted a legal challenge to the amendment, but the Constitutional Court rejected it in July. And in Zimbabwe on Wednesday, it swore new members of the parliament after July elections, with the ruling ZANU-PF party commanding a majority of over 2/3, which is enough to amend the constitution. The MPs were sworn in following Zimbabwe's first election after Robert Mugabe was ousted last year after staying close to 4 decades in power. The Zimbabwe African National Union Patriotic Front, that's ZANU-PF, won 145 seats out of 210 seats in the lower house National Assembly, above the minimum 2/3 required to amend the constitution. The Movement for Democratic Change, MDC, got 63 seats, while 2 seats were taken by independents. And now a South Sudanese military court on Thursday sentenced 10 soldiers to prison for the rape of foreign aid workers and the murder of a journalist in an assault on a hotel in Juba in 2016, and ordered the government to pay compensation to the victims. The attack at a Terrain hotel in the capital was one of the worst on the foreign aid workers since South Sudan was plunged into conflict in 2013. 11 soldiers were on trial, but one was set free due to the lack of charges against him. The court case was widely seen as a test of will by the government of President Salva Kiir to bring accountability in the military that has long drawn accusations of widespread rights violation and a culture of impunity. We now cross over to Ethiopia, where Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed and Eritrea's President Isaias Afwerki have reopened Ethiopia's embassy in the Eritrean capital, Asmara, on Thursday, resuming transport, trade and telecommunication ties between the two countries. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres also endorsed the resumption of relations between the once warring countries, hailing the development as an amazing success. Since signing an agreement in Asmara on July 9 to restore, Eritrean and Ethiopian leaders have moved swiftly to sweep away 2 decades of hostility since conflict erupted between the two neighbors in the Horn of Africa in 1998. We'll bring you more news shortly after this break. And on the foreign scene, Japan's northern island of Hokkaido has been hit by a powerful earthquake, triggering landslides that engulfed houses. 2 people have been killed and about 40 missing. The 6.7 magnitude quake cut power to around 3 million homes and shut down a nuclear plant in the region. The earthquake comes on the heels of a deadly typhoon lashing the west of Japan over the past few days. So far, it poses no tsunami risk, the country's meteorological agency has said. And a high-level South Korean delegation has met with North Korean President Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang on Wednesday, as Seoul plans a new summit with the North Korean leader to break a deadlock in denuclearization talks. The South's President Moon Jae-in's special envoy Chung Yoo-myung, who is leading the 5-member delegation, earlier said he will discuss ways to completely denuclearize the Korean peninsula and establish lasting peace. His delegation met with Chairman Kim Jong-un and delivered a personal letter from the President Moon and exchanged opinions. U.S. President Donald Trump and President Kim reached a vague agreement at a landmark summit in June to work towards the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, but there has been little movement since. Health workers in New York are awaiting the outcome of tests after 10 passengers on an Emirates flight from Dubai were taken to hospital. Acting Health Commissioner Dr. Osiris Barbot said their symptoms, fever, coughing and vomiting, suggested flu and hoped the laboratory results from respiratory samples would be released on Thursday. All those on board were screened by health officials on arrival, and 3 passengers and 7 crew members were assessed as needing care in hospital. Flight 203 was quarantined at JFK Airport on Wednesday after more than 100 passengers and crew complained of feeling unwell during the flight. And in India, the Supreme Court has on Thursday struck down a same-sex ban at the center of years of legal battles. Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, enacted by British rulers in the year 1961, banned carnal intercourse against the order of nature. The law had become a weapon for harassment for the LGBT community, Chief Justice Deepak Misra said as he announced the landmark verdict. Activists have been fighting the ban since the 1990s, suffering several court reverses before Thursday's verdict, which sparked celebrations among lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender groups across the vast South Asian nation. It's now time to talk business with Edidi Young as she brings us the latest.
Welcome to Business News on Plus TV Africa. I am Edidiong Iwang. Well, the Nigerian Stock Exchange has been ranked as the worst performing in Africa 2018 year-to-date, and it has been attributed to the series of tense political developments in Nigeria, coupled with some negative macroeconomic statistics. NSE was ranked best performing in Africa in 2017, and it was also ranked the third best in the world last year by CNN Money after recording a whopping 48% returns on investment during the year. However, as of Tuesday, September 3rd, the NSE All-Share Index had fallen by minus 11.3% year-to-date. Well, according to statistics from the Debt Management Office, Nigeria's external debt moved from $10.32 billion in June 30, 2015 to $22.08 billion in June 2018, which shows a 114.05% increase in the past 3 years. Mr. Johnson Chukwu of Cowrie Asset Management speaks to Plus TV Africa on the effect of continuous borrowing by the federal government.
Well, the risk involved in what I may call a borrowing binge. If you go about borrowing without looking at your debt capacity, ability to meet interest payment obligations, and ability to pay back the principal amount, is that you overget to a point where you are over-leveraged. That means at that point, your income, your revenue can no longer meet your interest payment obligations and principal repayment. We've had instances in the past where African countries ran into such difficulties, even in our country, Nigeria, until the debt write-off in 2003 or thereabouts, 2003 or 2004, that Nigeria enjoyed about 12.6 billion debt forgiveness. Nigeria's total debt at that point was at something like $42 billion. But today, interestingly, we have moved to total debt about $73 billion. If you look at foreign currency debt of $22 billion and then the Naira component of our government debt. So situations have arisen in the past where African economies accumulated so much debt without looking at the capacity to pay back. Some of us have argued that if you want to appraise an African country's capacity to borrow, you have to assess that by looking at their total debt to earnings, to revenue, and not necessarily total debt to GDP, because that might not give you the actual figures.
Well, there is a need for harmonization of petroleum products specifications as well as domestic oil and gas infrastructure with a more regional and global trade objective in Africa. This is to grow inter-Africa trade, and that's the submission of co-founder and executive director of Sahara Group, Temitope Shonibu, at the ongoing Africa Oil and Power Conference in Cape Town, South Africa. He noted that the midstream and downstream infrastructure deficit could be addressed through incentives or policies by governments to ensure sustainable infrastructural growth that may be funded in partnerships or solely by producers or traders. Well, that's it on business news at this hour, but stay tuned as Tokumbo Taiwo brings entertainment news.
And in entertainment, veteran Nigerian singer Genie, who almost lost his life in a car crash in Lekki on the 27th of August 2018, has described his survival as miraculous. Genie is calling on his fans to pray for his full recovery. His real names are Osayamwe Donald. Shared a photo of himself being scanned for undisclosed reasons. In his post, he mentioned that the accident is the closest to death that he's ever been, even though he has been in several car accidents. According to the singer, it will be putting it mildly to call his survival a miracle. Genie made his debut into the music scene in 2004 with his then hit song, Ego. GQ, in celebration of their 21st year, has honored men and women who have helped the growth of the world's cultural landscape through politics, style, entertainment, sport, all through the year. The fashion icon of the year went to Naomi Campbell and was presented by actress Zendaya. Naomi was accompanied by Ayodeji Wizkid Balogun. Hugo Boss Most Stylish Man prize went to John Legend and was presented by Chrissy Teigen. Still on entertainment, Ugandan's dancehall star Bobby Wine has forced his longtime nemesis BB Cool to take a music break. The beef between the two Ugandans sparked up a week ago after BB Cool was pelted with objects while on stage for a performance. Bobby is currently receiving treatment in the US. The former member of the East African Bashment crew, BB Cool, has announced that he'll be taking a music break for a period of time for the sake of his family. According to a report, he chose to be silent as a means to exercise tolerance for the political events currently happening in his country. And that's it on entertainment. I'm Tokumbo Taiwo, and coming up next is the very best in sports.
Hello and welcome to Sports Update on Plus TV Africa. My name is Udoka Christian Njoko. And of course, going straight to boxing, Tyson Fury. And the fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder has now been made official. And Tyson Fury will get to battle him in December. Deontay Wilder stepped into the boxing ring, and the heavyweight championship has now been scheduled to take place in Las Vegas early December. The fight will come up shortly before or immediately after the mega rematch between Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez, at which the world of boxing will be gathered. And Fury and Wilder pledged to fight each other when Wilder stepped into the ring in Belfast to join Fury following the second win of the Gypsy King's comeback over Francesco Pianetta. And Tyson Fury said he is adamant and will be ready as he's training hard for the fight, which seemed to be coming too soon upon his return from a near 2-year absence from the ring. And in golf, Rory McIlroy and Justin Rose have both welcomed the selection of Sergio Garcia as one of Europe's wildcards for the Ryder Cup. The Spaniard, Garcia, was one of the 4 players given wildcards by the team captain Thomas Bjorn. 5 of Europe's 8 automatic qualifiers are rookies, and this explains the reason for Thomas Bjorn's decision to go for experience in his selection of wildcards. Ian Poulter, Sergio Garcia, Henrik Stenson and Paul Casey got the nod based on their vast experience rather than form. And the 3-day Ryder Cup starts on the 28th of September at the Le Golf National in Paris. And in football, Charlton Athletic have appointed Lee Bowyer as the permanent first-team manager after he took over as caretaker manager in March following the departure of Carl Robinson, and guided Charlton to the League One playoffs last season. The 41-year-old, who won 6 of the final 10 matches before losing to Shrewsbury in the playoff semi-finals, has agreed to a contract until the end of the current season. And Bowyer is now hoping to take the team back to the championship for the first time since 2016 in what is his first full season as a manager. And the club are currently in 10th position, having started the campaign with 2 wins, 2 draws, and 2 defeats. And that's it on Sport Update on Plus TV Africa. For more on sports, do log on to our website, www.plustvafrica.com/sports. I am Udoka Njoko.
Many thanks, Udoka. And there you have it. That's our news roundup of events at this hour. Remember, the biggest stories leave here. For more news updates and broadcasts, please follow us at Plus TV Africa. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do remember to subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines across the African continent and the rest of the world. Many thanks for watching. I'm David Alabi. Good afternoon.